Hi guys, my name is Yomi and I'm a software developer. I am starting a new series on YouTube on Android user interface programming. Throughout this series, we will be converting some interesting and popular UI designs to working code. Most of our designs will be gotten from UpLabs, Behance, and Dribble. I'm sure you guys are familiar with those sites. They have loads of interesting and fantastic UI concepts. Today, we are starting with this login screen from the Instagram app. I created this using Sketch app. If you guys want to see how I did that, just drop a line in the comment section and I'll upload a video. When I get a design brief, before I start coding, I like to visually inspect the design and just break it down in my head or on a piece of paper. That way, you know what you want to code, you know the layouts you want to use, and all that. So, before we start coding this screen, let's break it down. For the background, we have a gradient background running from a dark blue color to a purple color. We have the logo. We have two text views, or rather edit text views. One for the email and password. We have a customize button and a couple of text views. So it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. So let's start coding. First of all, I like to define some values that we'll be using throughout the app. So since we're starting with the background, it makes sense to define the colors used in the gradients. Let's call this the dark blue. And it has I'll copy this and call it purple, and this has C8 687. Okay, so now when you look at the design, I tried as much as possible to avoid using images for backgrounds. If I can define a background in XML, I always go for that option. That way your design can scale to fit any size without any artifacts, and you don't have to worry about exporting for different resolutions. The Android system takes care of it. Once you can define it in XML, it can increase or decrease it as needed. So we'll define these gradients in XML. Alright, quickly we define all the color values we will be using throughout the app. A quick note: X values for colors usually come as 6 characters after the hash sign, but in some cases you can have them as 8 characters. What this reads, the first 2 characters signify the alpha channel, which means transparency. Now that we have the colors defined, we go create the background. So we create a new resource file. Let's call it DG login. Into the text view, change this to shape, and we give it the gradient element. We define the start color to be the dark blue. We define the end color to be the purple, and we give it an angle of 135. That makes it vertical. That's it. We go to our main activity page. We'll give the background as the background we created. Okay, that's beautiful. Notice we still have the action bar, which we do not need. To remove that, we go to styles and we change this to no action bar. That's it. Now if you look closely, let's zoom in. You see the status bar still has a shade of blue that we do not want. One solution is to make it match the dark blue we used. This status bar picks its color from color primary dark, so we could change this to use the dark blue color. There you go. Preview. Let's zoom in again, and there, it's cleaner now, so we can proceed. When you're working with constraint layouts, you can work within the text view or the design view. I tend to prefer the text view, but I do mix it with the design view for things that will be easier to do in the design view. So let's start. Let's look at the design again. You'll notice there's a margin around all the views, or most of the views. So from the design, that was 24 dp. It's a 4 dp margin. So I'll be creating that with the guideline. Go to design, select layouts, and you see guideline vertical. I drag it onto the screen. I'll be needing two, one for the left and one for the right. I give you guideline, an idea of guideline left, and it's going to be 24 dp. Select the second one, 24 dp. We give it guideline end, 24 dp, and right. That's a good the text view. You see that it has written all the codes you need for that for you. Okay, the orientation important. It's vertical. In case you need them horizontal guides, this will become horizontal. Okay, now we have those two. We can get the image view now, raw content, and the source. I've taken the liberty to import some SVGs we'll be needing. I'm trying to make the video as short as possible. In subsequent videos, I'll show you how to create SVGs from scratch or import them from various sites. So now I have my icon as IC Flutter. There you go. I could keep writing code, which I prefer. I'm going to show you guys. Some people think this is easier. Let me zoom in. I need to centralize this between the two guidelines we created. So I just pick this handle, drag here, pick this handle, drag to this. There you go. I do not need this. Okay. I also pick this and drag to the top. Give it a margin of say 80. There you go. You go to the text and you see it has written all the code you need. Constraint end to start off, constraint start to start off. Okay, and the constraint top to the top of the parent. Cool, that's fine. The next thing we do is get a edit texts. Now the width for constraint layout, there's actually no property known as with the value of match parent. It's actually illegal. So we use 0 dp. It does not mean it's going to be 0. It just means it's going to follow the constraints we set. Okay, we let the constraints determine how wide this particular view is going to be. The height remains wrap content. Okay, now let's say the start of the constraint should be at the start of the left guideline. Okay, and the end, constraint end, to the start of the right guideline. Can you see this? Let me make it bigger. Now we told it the view, we told the width to be 0, but do you see how wide it is? It means it's matching the constraints we set. Okay, so there's nothing like match parent in constraint layout. Okay, now let's style this. When we get this, we just copy it for the next text view. We give it an ID over, say, username. Okay, and input type is going to be an email address. Yeah. Okay, now the top, let's go back here, zoom in. Its top should be tied to the bottom of the image view. Okay, see, and it should have a top margin of, say, 40. Okay, yeah, so the image view, let's give it a descriptive ID. So you see, constraint, the top constraint of this view goes to the bottom of the image view. I hope you understand that. Okay, next thing we'll do is let's create a background to match what the design shows us here. So we go back to drawable, create a new drawable resource file. Okay, let's call it edit text bg. Okay, all right, we go to text. We change the selector to shape as usual, and we give it a solid color. We also need rounded corners, so we give it a rounded corner with radius of 2 dp. It's good. Now we use that background in the edit text. That's great. We also give it a hint and a padding of 16 dp. Now let's look closely. You see the transparency of the background? You see, you can see through. Now that's as a result of the alpha channel we set in some of the colors we're using. Okay, that lets us see through the background. Good, so we can proceed. We just copy this edit text to create the next one. We change the ID and change the type, the input type. The constraint top should match the bottom of the username, and then we'll reduce the margin. I think 16 dp should be fine. Yeah, good. Now we create a button. We also give it a 0 dp width. The height will match, will wrap content. Okay. The top constraint should be at the bottom of the password edit text, and then we give it a top margin of 16 dp too. Good. Yeah, that's what we want. And then now let's centralize it between the two guidelines. Yeah, great. We enter the text. Yeah. And remove the all caps. It's false. Let's create the background. We call it btn background. Now this is one of those times where we really want to use selector. For a button, we want the outline to brighten up when it is pressed. Okay, so we need a selector for that. A selector lets us use, or lets us nestle multiple items within itself. Now, so we create the first item. This state, we give it a state of pressed, which is true. And within the item, we now create our shape. Give a stroke, which is the outline. This will be brighter, so we give yes, we use the brighter color. We give it a width, that's the thickness, to be 2 dp. We also want rounded corners, so we give a rounded radius of 2 dp too. That's fine. Now we just copy this and duplicate it for the next item. Now we delete the state, since this will be the default state, and then we use the lighter color, and that's it. Now we can use that created background as the background of the button. That's perfect. We have some little adjustments to make in the edit text. We need the icon on the right hand side to signify that it's a password field, so we'll use drawable right, yeah, and include the icon. Yeah, that's good. Also change the text colors. Let's change that hint first. So we change the hint colors now. And we do the same thing for the username. Good. So we remove the extra margin for the buttons. We also give it a text color. That's it. Now we create the text view below it. Wrap content, and on the text, don't remember password. We give it an ID. And the right color. Now we set the constraints. It should be centralized between the two guidelines, the left and the right guideline. And the top of it should be constrained to the bottom of the button. Here we set the ID of the button. Yeah, great. Let's give it a bit of margin. Yeah, that's great. Look at this view now. We want this line at the bottom to be tied to the bottom, and the forgot password sign up text field should be between the bottom of the parent and the line. The sign in with Facebook too should be tied to the line, while this group of lines should be in between all of that. So let's go. We start creating the bottom line with the view 0 dp and then height of 1 dp. We constrain it to the bottom of the parent and set the margin to 50 dp. That's great. Give the background of white. Yeah. Next we create the text view. Wrap content, and then text size. Text. Don't have an account. And the top, we're trying to centralize it between the view. I give it an ID. Footer line. We centralize it between the footer line and the bottom of the parent. That centralizes it horizontally, and the bottom constraint centralizes it vertically. That's good. The text color. Now we create the next text view. Wrap content, and the text. Sign in with Facebook. Okay, and the color, we set it. Now we try to centralize it between the two guidelines as usual. Good. And then we set the bottom constraint to the top of the footer line, and we give it a margin 16 dp. That's great. Next we give it the left icon, which is drawable left, or drawable start rather, and also set the padding for the drawable. No, not that, not quite. Drawable padding, yeah, that's what we're looking for. Yes, great. And for the last part, let's look at this. We have two lines with the or text in between them. We use chaining to achieve this. Now we use view. I've pasted the code, just study them. We use view to create the line. We have a layout width of 120, height of 1, and we constrain the start to the left guide, and we use the chain style of spread inside. That dictates how the chained views spread out. The or text, we centralize it to the line 1, and the start is constrained to line 1 and end constrained to line 2. And line 2 we create it same way like line 1, and the start is constrained to the or text and the end is constrained to the layout, the guide right. And when you play, this is what you get, the beautiful screen working as expected. So the code is on GitHub. You can see the link below, and if you have any question, please let me know.